Hello, good morning, everyone. You're most welcome to today's episode of the Market Snapshot. My name is Norbert Kiza, and I'm happy to be with you guys today. So, today is the start of a new week, and of course, we have a relatively busy week ahead. To start it off, we are going to go through what the markets are looking like as of now, which is the London session. Let's have a look through what's happening. Okay, so to as we start off the week, and this is typically what we are experiencing. So the Asia indices started off on a bearish note, of course, because of some weak Chinese data that we saw this morning. But crossing over to Euro, the Europe indices have opened up quite bullish. And of course, this is a bit of a surprise. Of course, noticing that we are having some tensions in Europe ahead of the French election on the 30th between Le Pen and Emmanuel Macron. So they are going to be facing off in an election. And of course, currently, we are seeing that it's likely that the election is going to be won by Le Pen. And of course, the markets, however, want Macron to be the winner of the election. And however, we are seeing some bit of bullishness. So I do not know whether this might be the calm before the storm, but we just have to wait and see how the rest of the London session plays out, and also into US session. Now, looking over at commodities, last Friday on Friday we saw a very sharp sell-off on some of the assets like gold and silver, but we are seeing that gold actually has recovered a bit of its losses and is now trading actually up a bit, almost 4/10%. Silver is also up a bit, almost 6/10%. And we just have to monitor and see whether this continues into the rest of the US session. Crossing over to crypto, the cryptos are getting absolutely hammered. And of course, this is picking up from last week where we saw a bit of a bearish sell on cryptos led by Bitcoin. Of course, Bitcoin is dragging all of them, and we are seeing some heavy losses on some of them, with some cryptos like Uniswap even down as much as 6%. So I do not know, maybe someone is getting taken out of the cryptos. We have to wait and see what happens. Now, crossing over to the forex, euro and pound are recovering this morning. We're also seeing some recovery on the Australian dollar. However, last week we saw that the DXY seemed to have uh, pushed a little higher. So we shall check on the DXY and see how the DXY is trading as of now. But the markets are still getting their footing for the week, since we have a very, very big week ahead and we can expect a lot of data going into the week. Now, looking at the news, of course, we are going into the month of July very, very soon. And of course, for July, we can expect a lot of the stocks to start posting their earnings for Q1. And of course, July is going to be a very, very busy month for a number of the stocks. Now, we are seeing some headlines here coming in from some ratings from some of the European asset managers. We are seeing some ratings for companies like Tesla, some ratings for companies like Ferrari, and of course, some ratings even for companies like Apple. So as you can see, these ratings should of course affect some of the stocks, and we have to wait and see essentially how that plays out going into the rest of the week. Now, let's before we go to the economic calendar, I just want us to have a look at the DXY to just see how the DXY is trading at. And then we can cross over to the calendar. So for DXY, we're going to look at it on the daily to see typically how it's been trading. So we've been having a look at the DXY on these market snapshots. And essentially what we've observed with the DXY is that we have been seeing it in a steady uptrend. And of course, this steady uptrend has held. However, there seems to be some barrier for the DXY around this area here on the 1st of May, where it was trading as high as 106. So we expect that DXY is going to face a bit of resistance at those levels. And as we go into the rest of the month, and also going into July, we are most likely going to see more dollar bets. And of course, this is because the Federal Reserve is expected to hike their rates sometime in December. Okay. So currently, we are seeing dollar benefiting, and it's also, I think, the reason why we are seeing money taken out of some risk-on assets like gold, as also on Bitcoin. So we have to keep monitoring the DXY to see how it does. Now, I also know that this week we have the GDP and the PCE data, which is going to be very, very crucial for the direction for the DXY. So going into the rest of the day, I think it's still very uncertain how the DXY is going to move. We just have to keep monitoring to see how the data plays out on the on Monday. Apollo, how are you doing? Yeah, Apple, unfortunately, I think I cannot comment on that here. Since of course this is FX Spacer's YouTube, but we can definitely we can definitely discuss about about what I think about that. Yeah, yeah. I will reserve my comment regarding my personal comment regarding that. Yeah. Otherwise, but Uganda is fine. Uganda is fine. We don't have any issue in Uganda. Okay. Guys, let's go into the economic calendar and see what we have on the calendar. So going into the economic calendar, this is essentially what we have. We are going to look at it from Monday all the way through Friday. So for Monday, we have had some data coming out for trade balance for New Zealand, and of course, you can see New Zealand's trade balance is in a negative, but we saw it improving a bit, slightly there, by about some couple of millions there. Imports also have picked up a bit for New Zealand, and exports have also picked up a bit. Going into Germany, German's data, we had some data coming out from Germany. This is German business expectations data. We saw a slight decline there, and I'm seeing that the DAX currently is trading higher on the release of that data. We're having a bit of a barrier for the DAX trading around 16,000, 18,300. But after the release of that data, I'm seeing some bullish momentum today on the DAX, the DE40 roll. So it's picking up, and we are seeing it possibly moving higher today. So going into the rest of the day today, we don't have that many events. Maybe to look at we have a number of Fed speakers. Of course, I don't think there's anything new that we are going to get from a number of these speakers. So it might be better to focus majorly on the technicals and to see essentially how the market plays out going over there. Now, we also have some CFTC reportables coming out at 10:30 p.m. today. You can always find out this data on Trading Star. Trading Star is a website where you can find what the current positioning is for different market players. So we are going to get data coming out there for gold, for copper, for aluminium. Of course, some of these things I'm sure a number of you do not trade, but if you're a currency trader, this might be important for you. Again, if you trade gold and crude oil, that one is also going to be important for you. So now going into Tuesday, this is how Tuesday is looking like. We have a bit of data here. Uh, the main event for Asia trading will be the CPI data, where we expect the reading to come out relatively higher. If we get a positive reading here and higher than the previous, as well as also the forecast, you should see buy there for the Japanese yen. And of course, going into the rest of the US session on Tuesday, the main focus will be Canada CPI data. So for CPI data, typically how to approach it is that you can either trade the after effect, or you can use your buy stops and sell stops. We tend to have a nice move usually on USD card for CPI data, where whenever we have the CPI data coming out higher for the higher, we typically tend to see a sell for USD card, and whenever the CPI comes out lower, we usually tend to see a buy for the USD card. So the move usually for CPI is not as big as the one for US CPI, but we typically tend to have a nice move of roughly about 100 pips. That is if you use your buy stop order or sell stop order. Either direction, you can tend to have a nice move there. So you might want to focus on this CPI data coming out. Now going into 4 p.m., we have some PMIs that are going to be coming out. The key data for Tuesday is going to be this consumer confidence reading, which is coming out at 5 p.m. If we get a reading above forecast, then definitely we are going to see some buying for the US indices, particularly the Dow Jones. Now, going into Wednesday, Wednesday we have German consumer climate coming out at 9 a.m. This is going to be key for the euro as well as also for the DAX. Then, of course, going into the US session, we also get building permits that are going to be coming out at 3:30 p.m. I don't expect the market to react that much to the building permit data. Going into the rest of the US session, we have the 5-year note auction. If we get a higher auction yield rate, then it's likely that we're going to see a buy for the dollar. And of course, if it comes in lower, then that should be a sell for the dollar. For those who are trading crude oil with FX Pesa, then you might see some moves there for crude oil. Crude oil has been trending higher, steadily higher. It's currently trading at about $80 a barrel, and we are seeing it in an uptrend. This is off this level of $72. It's been in a steady uptrend. So if we get lower crude oil inventories, then I think we should sell there. But if the crude oil inventory is coming higher, then we should be seeing a buy for crude oil, possibly higher to about 82 or 83 dollars a barrel. Now going into Thursday, Thursday, we don't have that much of data. It's a relatively quiet day on Thursday. But we expect that if you're focusing on your charts, there will be definitely some setups there. Now, going into Friday, rather Thursday, we have the GDP data. GDP data, the last time we got the GDP data, I think that was the month of May. We got Q1 data, and we saw a steady decline there. The number came out at about uh, was this number revised? I remember that GDP data actually disappointed to the downside. This seems to be a revised number. Yes, actual was 1.3%. There seems to be an issue with trading with this calendar. The calendar is showing a wrong number here. Okay, the previous was actually 1.3%. Okay, this was according to May, but here it's showing 3.4%, which I think is erroneous. So I think trading view, rather investing.com most likely is going to correct that. Now 1.3% as previous, we'll be expecting that to get a number either higher, much higher, possibly upwards of 2%, upwards of 3%, indicating that the US economy had a resurgence there. That should be bullish for the dollar. Now, guys, if we get a strong GDP number here, then I think there's going to be a nice big push for DXY. Okay, DXY should have a nice push there on the back of stronger GDP. If you look at the core components of the US economy, you're looking at the labor market. Labor market is strong. Inflation, of course, has been declining steadily, which is a good thing. But spending is still increasing, okay, which is still also a good thing. Now, if the GDP comes out higher, then this is going to help the DXY to recover very nicely. Now, I'm going into Friday. Friday, the main focus is going to be the GDP for the UK. And then, of course, we also have the German retail sales that are going to be coming out at 9 a.m. in the morning. And then we shall sum up the day with the PCE data for the US. Now, the PCE is very, very important. For those of you that do not know what PCE is, PCE is an index that captures the different items that are consumed by private households in the US. So it focuses on the key things that are consumed by every household. And the Federal Reserve typically tends to use it as their inflation gauge because it gives them an understanding of how the typical American consumer is doing. Okay. So if we see a steady increase or a steady decline for PCE, then it shows us that the spending is not decreasing at a big pace, which is a good thing. And of course, it also shows us that the economy is relatively strong. Now, going into the rest of the US session on Friday, we have the Michigan PMI, and rather we have the Chicago PMI data. And for PMI is typically a manufacturing index that tells us how the economy is doing. Whenever the index comes in higher, it's typically looked at as above 50, cyclical tend to looks at, it shows that the economy is improving well, and it's good usually for the currency. And whenever it comes in lower or below 50, it's typically looked as not that much of a good thing for the economy. Awesome. Let's cross over to MT5. Let's cross over to MT5 and look at how the charts are doing. Okay. Let's see. So we are going to start with Bitcoin, of course, on the H4 time frame. So the last time we've been going over these charts so many times, but of course, if you look at the chart once again, this is where we stand with BTC USD. Keep in mind, guys, BTC USD is tradable on FX Pesa, which of course is a regulated broker with, I think, license number 107, 108, and Capital Markets Authority of Kenya. So this is a regulated broker, and you can trade without any issue or concern. Now, BTC USD has been stuck in this box here for quite some time. From February all the way up to March, we are stuck here. Okay. Now, there seems to be some hesitation for Bitcoin above this level. Okay. We've been observing it a couple of times. There was a bit of optimism going into February, expecting that when the SEC gives the go ahead for the launch, listing of Bitcoin ETFs, then it would push the Bitcoin higher. But this came as a very, very big disappointment to many Bitcoin traders, because soon after the ETFs were released, Bitcoin did not do anything. It did not buy all the way. It essentially stayed within this box. Now, as if that was not enough, we also got some optimism from the Bitcoin halving. The Bitcoin halving happened sometime around April. And soon after the Bitcoin halving, the previous Bitcoin halvings have indicated usually that Bitcoin typically tends to buy soon after the halving, but that didn't materialize. As you can see, that soon after the halving, Bitcoin still kept in this box here. Now, there seems to be a big likelihood that Bitcoin wants to create a lower price before it pushes higher. Okay. Now, that lower price seems to have showed some kind of possibility in May, but it still failed here. And after Bitcoin buying all the way up to 70,000 here, it now gave confidence to traders that maybe now that was going to be our big break and would get Bitcoin buying all the way. But as you can see, we still went back into the box. So at the moment, it's very, very likely, since we're at the bottom of our Davos box, it's very likely that Bitcoin wants to break below the box and possibly trade lower around 55,000, 52,000, for it to create a higher low that it will now elevate it now above these levels here. Okay. Now, this looks like the likely play, especially if you're trading Bitcoin. Keep an eye for how it plays out there. Now, crossing over to the Dow Jones. Dow Jones has been having a bit of confusing price action. Uh, we had been in a barrier above 39,000. However, the price action that we got on Thursday last week gave us a very nice push for Dow Jones, where we saw it breaking above 39,000 for the first time in a long time. And as you can see, I was expecting us to have either a break above this box here, rather a break above this price action to the downside. That didn't happen, but we had a slight break to the upside. But as you can see, guys, we still failed to maintain price action above 39,000. Okay, 39,200. So what I'm expecting this week is that Dow Jones is going to either range in this area here. Okay. I don't expect it to break above here. If we fail 39,200, then it's going to allow the Dow Jones to possibly move lower and possibly start trading lower. Now, since we are now in the summer period, for those that are in Europe and of course in the West, uh, typically during summer, we tend to see money moving to money market assets. and then of course money getting out of risk on assets. So risk on assets, you typically look at things like like the Bitcoin, the stocks, some risk on currencies like the pound typically tend to perform relatively bearish in the summer period of June all the way to August. Now, looking at how the Dow Jones is trading and looking at its counterpart, which is Nasdaq, Dow Jones looks like it has created a higher low for the year. So we had April, and then now we had May, and now we have a steady move to the upside. So if we break out of this box here that I have here, then it's likely that the next push for Dow Jones is going to be all the way this way. Now, if that doesn't happen, then of course we are going to sell and go back to the downside. Bitcoin is telling us something since it seems to be on a very heavy sell when its counterparts like the stocks are on a buy. Uh, Maybe later in the week we are going to see some selling entering these indices. We just have to wait and see, but it's still very early to tell since it's just Monday. Now going into Nasdaq, Nasdaq, as you can see, seems to have topped around this high of 20,000. Okay, and now I want to see essentially what happens around this area here. So typically, uh, if we see a push to the downside, then it's very likely that we're going to see much bigger sells for the Nasdaq. But for now, keep monitoring it to see typically what happens there, and we have to just wait and see what happens there. Now, there seems to be some kind of a descending wedge currently on the Nasdaq on the H4 time frame. I do not know whether this is a reliable pattern, especially knowing that Nasdaq. Yes, Nasdaq is showing signs of exhaustion in its rally, but I think we should get a break here, possibly taking us back to 20,000. If we fail to get that break, then we're going to continue in this downtrend. Okay. Now, I'm not saying buy Nasdaq now. The best time for you to make up your mind about how to trade might be at open. That's a US session. If you get a failure to buy, then of course you're going to see a nice sale there. Now let's go over to gold. Okay, so this is what we are seeing on gold at the moment. Gold had a surprise move here. We saw gold going under intense selling. That was on Friday afternoon. It came as a surprise to many people, I think, including myself. I was not expecting gold to sell on Friday, but I had this box drawn on gold, and soon after we broke this support here. I think gold took out this buying balance here, and now it absolutely just took out all this price action here and reset itself. Now, how do you go about gold going into today? When I look over at silver, silver is looking relatively bullish going into Asia. But if you look at it on the 4-hour time frame, it's only showing a couple of bullish candles. Okay, so it's very likely that we need to first wait and see how gold does later in the day. Okay, it has bought off its lows for Friday. That is true because it reached as low as 2,318. Okay, somewhere down here, but the bullish momentum is, I would say, minimal right now. Okay, yes, it has bought, but we need to see more upside for us to decide how to trade gold. Okay, if we don't see that much upside today, especially in the US session, then I think gold may immediately reverse this move and possibly trade lower tomorrow. Okay, so for now, you could scalp some buys on it. However, set your stops tight, possibly around 2,329, 2,328, because if the sell momentum kicks in, I think gold is not going to survive. It might go all the way and break this area. Now, I want us to look at gold on the H4 time frame a bit more deeply. If you look at this box that I have drawn, I think you guys must have been seeing this box on my snapshots. This is a multi-day demand zone for gold, where we have been seeing gold price action failing to sell around this area here. Okay, this is 30th of April. We bought up from that area there. If we go into June again, guys, we bought into that area, and at the moment, gold seems to be holding price action above that zone. Now, the most ideal area for you to look for sales for gold is somewhere below that demand zone, okay? Because it seems every single time gold stays above the demand zone, it keeps buying, just like it has been buying from April. Now, for today, you might want to look for buys for gold with very, very tight stops, and you might want to monitor how gold does around Friday's low, which is somewhere around here. If we take out Friday's low, it's very, very likely that gold might want to aim for where it was on Tuesday last week, which was somewhere around here. That was 2,302. If we take out 2,300, gold is going to attempt to aim for this demand zone. And if it aims for it and breaks below it, then we're going to see gold reversing its entire move all the way back to 2,000, 2,100. Okay. So that is really if we see that much bullish bearish momentum. If it's not there, then I don't think gold is going to sell. Now, I know there are not too many people that typically follow Bitcoin along with gold, but sometimes Bitcoin tends to follow, rather, gold tends to follow Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is selling, there are very few chances that we're going to see gold buying a lot. So keep an eye there and see what happens. Now, I just want to speak about risk at the moment, whether the market is pricing in any risk at the moment. Gold typically tends to buy a lot whenever there is anticipation of some kind of risk of some kind. Now, when I look over at the VIX is not telling us anything at the moment. It's typically I was expecting a nice break for the fear index, possibly taking us as high as 18. But the market seems not to have that much fear. Okay. However, what can affect the risk on assets like the stocks, like all this, is if maybe we have some kind of seasonal profit taking. Okay, if we see people taking profits on these stocks going into August, going into July, then we will see some selling coming in for gold and for some of the rest of these assets. Now let's cross over to GBPUSD. GBPUSD, as you can see, seems to have bought out of that area there. Okay, it had a bit of hesitation selling. As you can see, we had a lot of liquidity sweeps on it around this area here. So we've been seeing some buying coming in there for GBPUSD, but it is still very likely that more sell momentum is ahead for it. However, yes, and now in addition to that, the Bank of England also mentioned in their most recent policy meeting that they are looking at cutting rates as soon as August. So that is very soon. August is just next month, but one. And of course, that most likely is going to provide some downside momentum for the pound. At the moment, we seem to be buying off our lows from Friday, and we seem to have found some bit of choppiness around this area here. But I'm still expecting some more selling coming in there for the pound, possibly taking us all the way back to this area here, where we were on Friday. Now, Euro USD, not any different. I was expecting, of course, this was my setup for Friday. I was looking for a potential buy, which of course has only played out just now. But we should see some temporary recovery there for the euro, which of course will then keep us going, which will then take us back into a sell. Okay, awesome. Pound JPY. I've been bullish on USD JPY, I think, since May. And of course, this, of course, is because the Bank of Japan has kept a lot of comments that they want to keep the current benchmark rates for their central bank rate, and that of course is allowing the yen to sell a lot. So as you can see, we're seeing a nice uptrend there for the yen. And of course, the idea for trading is that we buy every single time we get a retracement, but the momentum is strong upside. Awesome. Question time. I'll handle questions now. If you have any questions, now might be the time for you to send in your questions so that we can handle them, guys. Questions. Okay. Apple is saying how a traditional seasonality is holding, and can FX Pesa be able to provide this, e.g., how July has behaved previously across various assets? Yes, that's a very very nice one. I can maybe ask you to read our Q2 market outlook, Rufus. Rather Apollo. There's a Q2 market outlook which goes over a number of things, how to expect, especially this month and over the next few months. But however, maybe if I can come in and speak a bit about that, the seasonality heavily varies from time to time. Yes, it's good to base your forecast on historical performance, but it is no guarantee for how the market will play out. Every single market every single year comes out with its own individual catalysts. But I think the main thing, typically we tend to see bullish momentum on the stocks in July, and it's typically August where we tend to see some selling. That is if I'm speaking for the indices and for the stocks. Now, when you come to the currencies, I think it depends on a number of factors, economic data and all these kinds of things. Yeah, but you will take it as it comes and goes, okay? Because every year is different. Yeah, every year is different. Yeah. It's like gold isn't observing technical fundamentals. Rumors are that China and other countries' surpluses are recycling their surplus into gold, not US treasuries, unlike the past. Yeah, China, of course, has been cutting back on its US treasuries, and that's what the statistics show. And of course, even right now, the country that is holding the biggest number of US treasuries is actually Japan. So China has been cutting back. I do not know why. But they seem to be cutting back a lot on the US, especially because of the US's debt, position now. It's taking on a lot of debt. It seems to China is trying to go into gold just in case the US faces a risk where it fails to commit on the debt that going into that. But there have also been some comments that it's likely that BRICS is coming up with a gold-backed currency. So for them to come up with a gold-backed currency, they need gold reserves. That's why we are seeing a number of countries, buying into that. But also this year we also have the US election. So the US election typically comes with different impacts on the markets. So we are seeing that actually gold is going into that area now. Speaking of another technicals on gold, I think I would say I've been having a bit of a bullish bias on gold, especially above this demand zone. Okay, I do this demand zone in around May, after I observed that even after we had a strong NFP data coming out for this month of May, gold failed to sell. Okay, this particular NFP was supposed to be a sell for gold, and it did not sell. And typically, I know among traders, we tend to say that whenever NFP comes in higher, it typically is a sign for us to sell gold, and when NFP comes in lower, it should be a sign for us to buy gold. Now, tell me how you can explain NFP numbers coming out higher or bullish for the dollar, but then again gold buying. Okay, so it means that gold now is not respecting economic data that much, and there seem to be some forces telling us that gold is in some kind of a bullish cycle now. Okay, which of course it is, because gold broke above 4-year resistance that was around $2,000. So now it is now in a bull market. Yeah. Next question. Are there any microeconomic factors influencing trading decisions today? No, Paul. I don't think we have any. We had some bit of data coming out for Germany, their business, I think, climate data, which of course came out a bit bullish. So we had a nice push for the DAX. The DAX pushed higher today, but now we are seeing it reversing its earlier gains. And it's now looking for a bit of a sell. Okay. Yeah. So now, also speaking, I think that's it. We don't have any other data aside from that for the DAX. Why is the dollar weakening? There's no particular reason why. It's just price action. We don't have any news at all that is affecting the dollar. So if it's weakening, it's just typically price action. Yeah, it's just price action. What's your outlook for AUD USD? AUD USD I haven't really looked at AUDS in a very long time. I have to update my chart on it. This is a very, very old chart for AUDUSD. You know, perhaps maybe I can come back to you on that one, Alan. Check with me on Wednesday. I'll have some setups for you on AUDUSD. At the moment, you know, this is really real analysis on AUDUSD. I've not checked it out in a very, very long time. What are sentiment indicators suggesting about the overall market direction? I need to check on. I usually use CNN's. Uh, you know. Uh, I use CNN's market sentiment indicator. So let me just head over there and look for it. Just a moment. Let me just get it for you, Paul. Give me a moment. Oh, James. James. About that, I cannot. Yes, I don't have access. Okay, my apologies for that. I got off the. Let me just share my screen. Yeah, so we're looking at the sentiment indicator. So I typically use the one for CNN. So let me just head over there and see it. Just a moment. So this is what it's saying. This is the fear and greed index, which is the investor sentiment. Paul, I hope you are still there. Uh, Mr. Paul Kamau, you're the one who asked about it. So this is what it's showing us at the moment. It's telling us what emotion is driving the market now. So this will come, of course, as a bit of a hey surprise to some of us because we are seeing that there seems to be fear in the market, but that's not what we are seeing with the markets. The markets actually are looking very, very bullish. Aside from some markets like Bitcoin, the rest of the markets are not showing us that much fear. Okay, so maybe it's ahead of the price action. Perhaps we just have to wait and see. But that is the sentiment. Awesome. Next question. Where do traders find news that happen and affect the currencies? So for news, I typically use Bloomberg. You can look for Bloomberg or you can get the Bloomberg terminal. It really has good news. Bloomberg can give you any news that you're looking for. It can even give you the price of chicken in China or in Guangzhou, anywhere. Everything it has. So for me, I use Bloomberg. It's reliable, and it also has a lot of people that it hosts on the show, on their shows. Most especially a Bloomberg surveillance show that typically focuses on what's moving in the market within that day. So for me, that's where I get all my news from. Awesome. I don't have any comments on Nvidia. Maybe just to wait for the price action. We had a nice push to the upside. Of course, if you look at the charts, but then of course now it had a bit of a sale on Friday, and of course that sale now is also going most likely is going to open with a sale for today. But we are still on a very very big rally on Nvidia. Even after the they split the even after splitting the stock, it just immediately started with a rally. So this is Nvidia is extremely bullish, and this bullish momentum is going to keep there, of course, as we see more uptake for AI, AI optimism and AI stocks. Awesome. You might want to look into getting into Nvidia now because you see now Nvidia's stock was split. They split the stock from 1,200 up to 120. Okay, you see how low the share. Of course, now it has revised on the chart, but the stock was split to $120. Now, if Nvidia by December is 1,300 from 1,200, I think that's a good deal. for you to get the stock. All right. Awesome. Any more questions? I think that's it. Yeah, I want to talk to you guys about there's a video that's going to be put on FX Pesa's YouTube. The video is going to be about the signal center. There's a signal center that's going to be available on your FX Pesa dashboard where you log in when you go to fxpesa.com. The signal center is going to allow you to be able to benefit from signals across various assets to help to boost your trading profits. So wait for that video. It's going to be posted on FX Pesa's YouTube soon. And I wish you guys all the best. We shall meet again on Wednesday. Cheers, guys, and happy trading.